Roller March Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. So first of all, I want you to play again what Diddy had to say yesterday. Press play.
The black vote is not going to be for free. We're going to have to see some promises. You know, what are we getting in return for our vote? Nothing has changed for black America. And in order for us to vote for Biden, we can't be taken for granted like we always are because we're supposed to be Democrats or because people are afraid of Trump. It's whoever's going to take care of our community, whoever wants to make a deal. It's business at this point. You know, we can't trust politicians. You know, so we want to know very clearly, just like Trump made it clear that he wanted to build a wall, Biden needs to make it clear that he's going to change the lives and quality of life of black and brown people, or else he can't get the vote. I will hold the vote hostage if I have to.
You said it here, said it first.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
So allow me to unpack that. Diddy said, first of all, that what hasn't been done, the lives of African Americans have not been improved. That's demonstrably not true. Problem is, it's some African Americans. If you look at where African Americans were, again, using 1968, 1970 as the marker, and then going forward, there has been some improvement. The reality is this, and this is where I think folks miss the boat here. The reality is this: how black people have been impacted economically, housing, education, health, cannot and will not be determined by one individual. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. We're talking about a complete infrastructure in this country. President, Congress, judicial, governors, state houses, county, city, school boards, the entire apparatus. So no one person actually impacts that. He is correct that there should be a demand. There should be a very clear demand made by voters. He's right. Evangelicals made it clear what they wanted from Trump. They accepted him and all of his hoeing ways. They accepted him and the porn stars. They accepted all the cheating on the wives because he said, I'm going to appoint right-wing judges who are going to get rid of abortion. We know Donald Trump is actually pro-choice, but he will say whatever he needs to say to get their vote. What you also have here is that part of the problem is you have this fractured leadership. Isaac Hayes III talking about, well, who goes and represents. But it's part of the deal. Does the NAACP have an agenda? Yes. Does the Urban League have an agenda? Yes. Do civil rights legal groups have an agenda? Yes. Does the CBC have an agenda? Yes. But then we get to this whole debate, well, they don't represent us, they don't represent us, they don't represent us. So then how in the hell do they get there? So who do they who do they represent? We act as if the NAACP doesn't have 2,000 chapters made up of regular, ordinary people. We act as if the National Urban League don't have branches. They do. We act as if our civil rights organizations really aren't talking to anybody, but they are. And so part of this deal is we have this debate constantly, the black agenda, the black agenda, the black agenda. National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, Black Women's Roundtable, they got an agenda. They got an agenda. Sororities, fraternities, Black BYP 100, Color of Change, they got an agenda. I mean, all these groups have agendas. You have people who are gay, who trans, church, conservative, who are sports, entertainment, media. I can go down all of them have agendas. The question then becomes, to Scott's point, how do you then mobilize and organize after the fact.
Yep.
See, that's the fundamental issue that I believe we keep missing. Let me take you back. I said the exact same thing. You can go back and read Essence Magazine, January 2009, where I wrote that we can't just be excited and think these things are going to happen just because Obama's there. Said it. Said it point blank. In fact, if you read my book, The First, President Barack Obama's Road to the White House, as originally reported by Roland S. Martin, I wrote it in the book. Spike Lee, in my interview with him, says it, that these things are not going to magically happen just because you got a black president. It's what you do also after the fact, which now means, how do you mobilize and organize? One of the fundamental issues that we have, folks, is also, how do we take our resources and then begin to say, move people? So let me just give you an example. Where did Reverend Jackson really derive his power from? When he ran in 1984 and 88 and put 2 million new voters on the rolls.
Mm-hmm.
That is what elected Richard Shelby as a Democrat to the United States Senate in Alabama. Now, he later became a Republican. But if you go back, Richard Shelby was elected as a Democrat in Alabama due to the black vote. If you go back and study, especially 1988, you will discover a number of African Americans who ran for sheriff, city council, county commissioner, state rep, state senate for the first time and won. Because Reverend Jackson put to going out, registering people. Y'all, that's a tangible number. See, saying I have millions of people on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, TikTok, does not actually translate into real power. Real power is when you're able to come to the table and say, if I go give this directive, they will follow.
Right.
Now, there's a real negotiation. After 2016, I had Bob Johnson on my TV One show, and he was talking about how African Americans, how we need to work with Trump. And let me be real clear. Do I think Trump is awful? Absolutely. Do I think he is atrocious? Absolutely. But are we still constituents of the United States of America? You damn right. And so therefore, we still deserve a seat at the table. Fine, we'll bring our own chair. So here's what I actually hope happens. And I go back to that Bob Johnson conversation. When I said, Bob, when are we going to create a black specific fund whose sole job is to register, train, educate our people? Because what we cannot do is continue to have this conversation where we're waiting. This is us right here, okay? What's the candidates going to do? What's the candidates going to do? Are the liberal groups, are they going to then put money into our voter registration efforts? No, here's the deal. Who are the 5 largest black get out the vote entities in the country? I would say, sure, you got the NAACP here. Sure, you have the National Coalition Black Civic Participation. You got Black Voters Matter. You can also talk about DeJuan Thompson's group, Be Woke. And then we could talk about a number of smaller organizations that are in various states. So the thing then becomes, okay, so in order for us to hit a certain number, so what is it? Like what's the number? Like we know this. There are 250,000 eligible but unregistered black people in South Carolina. We know there are about more than 300,000 in Georgia. There are 900,000 eligible but unregistered black people in Alabama. 500,000 of them are African American. There are several hundred thousand in Mississippi. Then what's the number in Florida? The reason Andrew Gillum is not governor of Florida today is because in the red counties in Florida,
That's right.
the turnout in those counties range from 65 to 75%. If you pull up the chart, it would take you about 13 to 14 counties to get to the first blue county, and the number was 57%. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, on one hand, you have education, mobilization, organization, registering people. First off, education. Why voting matters. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm saying why voting matters. Then I'm connecting the dots between federal, state, local. Because when somebody comes along and they say, well, local is really most important thing, forget everything else, that's a lie. Because local is going to ask state for money. State is going to ask federal for money. Local is going to ask federal for money. So you can't say those things are separate and divorced. So now let me deal with it. So now you say, okay, fine. So how do we educate, empower, enlighten? Now I've got that. Now I got to get you registered. Now I've got to get you to the polls, which now means, how do we do it? Who are the people? What are the buses? What are the cars? How are we making it happen? Are we walking people? What's going on? So I'm unpacking all these things. So now the question then becomes, is there a number? Is there a number? And that is, do these black organizations, based upon their budgets, and y'all, I talked to them, they all have budgets. They then say, we need $20 million in order to put 5 million people on the rolls. That's the number. So here's what I hope. I hope, because when Kenny Burns mentioned vote or die, I hope really what the plan is for Diddy is, before you get to the black agenda, is that I create the entity or restart the entity that serves the purpose that says we're going to study the map. We're going to target these 8, 10, 12, 14 states. We might support existing entities, but we're going to fund black specific voter education, voter registration, voter turnout. And when you have the entity, you have the data, which means that you have the name, the phone number. I want y'all to go to the New York Times and read the story they did on Brad Parscale, the campaign manager for Donald Trump, how they're using data to drive. And so now all of a sudden, if you're Diddy's entity and you bring in Killer Mike and you bring in T.I., and you bring in Gabrielle Union, and you bring in Dwayne Wade, and you bring in LeBron James, and you bring in other singers, you bring in other entertainers, you bring in athletes, then you join with the Black Economic Alliance, the black folks who are partnering there. All of a sudden, then you begin. Now, all of a sudden, you have what is a Black Council. The Black Council then goes, all right, NAACP, this is what y'all are doing. Urban League, this is what y'all are doing. This group, this is what y'all are doing. Now we have on the board what Black America is doing in these different spaces, as opposed to operating in silos and I'm competing with you. We don't need 30 black women's voter initiatives nationally. What we need is a handful where we're now dispersing money and resources to various individuals. Folks, when you do that, then you're able to say, Joe Biden, let me holler at you. Joe, just so you know, we're sitting on a database of 3.7 million people. Joe, in 2016, 2.4%, there was a 2.4% drop in black voter turnout. Had Hillary Clinton gotten the same number that Obama got in 2012, she would be president. You know you can't win without us. You know that it cost $1,000 to convert a voter that don't like you, meaning a Republican, versus it's cheaper to convert to get somebody who's already more in line with you, and that ranges from $20 to $50 in terms of how you target them with ads, things along those lines. All of a sudden, this thing goes beyond a video with Naomi Campbell. It goes beyond a post on Instagram to what is the most important thing, and that is infrastructure. That is how you're able to move. What Lyndon Baines Johnson did not want is for Dr. King to roll up in the White House with 10,000 people outside the gates. The reason Reverend Jackson was so successful when he dealt with companies in the 60s and 70s and 80s, especially with Operation Breadbasket, and if y'all please go read Demi's book on this. They did not want 200 preachers in Chicago taking to their pulpits and announcing that we're not going to buy from this store. You cannot make threats unless you have an organized entity that stands behind you. If you make a threat and there's nobody behind you, they will laugh at you because they know there's no one behind you.
Exactly.
To put it simply, you ever seen somebody walk up to somebody else talking all kind of smack because they think they boys are behind them? And then they say, me and my... Now everything changes because they now realize ain't no backup. What I hope we now focus on is not video that Diddy posted, not the comments of Kenny Burns or Jamie Foxx or the several thousand people who posted. I want to focus on organization, infrastructure. How do we fund it? How do we target our people where we're not waiting on anybody else? Mm-hmm. That is how you then use leverage. Because no politician wants to be in a situation where when they go give a speech, 5,000 or 10,000 people are showing up protesting them. They don't want to have a situation where, like gay folks did, who were in the military, who chained themselves to the fence when Obama was president. Yeah. Do y'all also remember when the DACA folks stormed one of Obama's campaign offices in Ohio and took it over? Y'all remember that? That's how those things happened. 2010, LGBT folks, Obama wasn't sitting here moving on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They closed their checkbooks. Guess what happened after the slaughter in 2010, the midterms? Obama came out and said, we got to get Don't Ask, Don't Tell passed by Congress. By December, it had been repealed by Congress. So, how do black people use their pocketbooks? Y'all, this is politics. This is how it's done. Now, let's see what happens next, Diddy. Next, Killer Mike. Next, other folks involved. If there is no plan, all this was simply a moment. You want to have leverage, you got to build a movement. Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Springs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and Wellness Specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, President of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julian Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. See these militia folks, see these white folks in Michigan in their gear with their guns, trying to storm the floor. And you have state reps who are sitting here saying that they were just, shocked and what's going on. I mean, it's absolute madness. But these are the white folks that, frankly, let's just cut to the chase. Donald Trump wants out there. He, of course, drove this and precipitated all of this.
Absolutely. This is part of his reelection strategy. Voter suppression, they already had the conventional strategy lined up. And then this pandemic hit, and they had to retool it. As we know, these people are not watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. If they're watching any media at all, they're watching Fox News, and they're getting their instructions from the White House. And they're also getting not so subtle instructions from the things that are shown on other news outlets. When you see Mike Pence walking through the Mayo Clinic with no mask on, he's a signal to them. This isn't unintentional. This isn't accidental. And as you see them there, they are endangering not only each other, but they are endangering all of us. If you're coming outside without a mask and you're getting close to other people, what you're saying is, I don't care about you, because the mask isn't for you, it's to protect other people. So this is basically an exercise in white nationalism. It is all aimed toward November. And ultimately, it will continue until state and local officials stop it, because the federal government is going to be of no help. They've got Bill Barr getting ready to try to exonerate Michael Flynn, to go send some spies to China and try to figure out other ways they can use, by reopening states, by the way, to maybe throw people off unemployment and other kind of ways to get at those populations that they have never considered to be part of the American quilt.
What we are seeing here, Reese, we're seeing people who don't care about the rule of law, except when it comes to black people. They're jumping in the faces of cops. And I'm sorry, this is where if you have restrictions saying you stand 6 feet apart. In fact, I'm going to play this video again. Folks, if you see on the far left side, you see they are in the face of cops. Jabbing their fingers in their face, angry at them. You're going to see it in a second. Let's look to the far left. You see the cops there in the mask, and they're literally in their face. That's not 6 feet. I'm sorry. Slap some damn, let's just remember, in Ferguson, Brittany Packnett tweeted this. In Ferguson, they had phones, they had pads, they called them thugs.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? So-called patriots? No, these are white domestic thugs.
Absolutely. And I think as Dr. Carr just stated, it's about white nationalism. You would think that for these police officers, their own personal safety, the fact that they are standing this close with people in front of them shouting, getting all kinds of respiratory droplets all in their face, you would think that self-preservation would kick in the same way it does when they feel so threatened by black people peacefully protesting, and they would do something about this. The most strange thing about all of this is that this white privilege, this white nationalism doesn't give you any kind of immunity. These people are just as vulnerable and susceptible, and probably more so because they're in these large crowds with people who are undoubtedly infected, protesting safety. What they're protesting is safety, their own safety. We're not talking about safety for other foreigners, or, they like to demonize the other. This is their own self-preservation, and yet their just desire I really don't understand it. It's a sickness, in my opinion, but they are jeopardizing people. And the most tragic thing to me is when I see them, I see people who are going to go to grocery stores and infect black and brown people that they're going to infect essential workers, and they're not going to give a damn about it.
Erica.
Yeah, we're seeing a rush to the apartheid state. They have not cared. And this happening is really more of an illumination of what white privilege looks like. Listen, so states' rights being fully illuminated as well at this time, I think what is up to the rest of us to do is to fight like hell for our democracy, the little bit that we do have, because we see that this group that I'm going to call the other group, they've been highlighted all throughout the years about their vote for this current regime leader. They have had countless articles, countless think pieces, books, all of this media attention around everything that they do, not condemning it, not putting it in context as them being them jeopardizing the nation as a whole, but really trying to understand who they are. They're white terrorists, point blank. They are fruit from the poisonous tree. And so we're seeing that at every level. We're seeing at the local level, we're seeing at the state level, and at the federal level, that this is going to continue to be allowed. So what we have to do is we have to then make sure that we are doing the things to ensure that our protections are in place long after this novel virus disappears.
every single night. We've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patel Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie British Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock, Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Michael Harriet with The Root, Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand, Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College, coroner Michael Fowler, is the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark, Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr., Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District, Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association, Jana Bailey, Mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks. Again, I talked about, and we were talking about, of course, what was happening across the country. And I just can't express enough. This is another graphic that was sent to us by Dr. Ebony Hilton that I want to show you. It's called "Staying Alive: Spread the Word, Not the Virus." Look, every African American should be studying this. Okay, folks, you see it right here. Obviously, wash your hand, clean dirty spaces, don't touch your face, leave your shoes at the door, cover your nose and mouth, wipe down all items. But here's the key. Save yourself, save others. It makes no sense that people, look at this, try to avoid sharing common spaces and household items. This is people in a household. No. We can't have people congregating in these spaces and places. We can't have them sitting here just... meeting the way they are. And I'm sorry, okay? Getting a damn nail job or a haircut ain't worth your life. Sitting here wanting to go to a house party with more than 100 people, it's not worth your life. We have not gotten testing to the level it needs to be at. It hasn't. Yet people are out here playing games, somehow thinking they're bulletproof. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're one of those people who are walking around saying, oh, black people can't get this, you are stupid and an idiot. It's simply not true. We're seeing cases worldwide. We're seeing cases in this country. Bus driver in Detroit, woman coughs. A couple of weeks later, he's dead. I don't understand what people are doing, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if that was somebody who was in my house, who was so hell-bent on going to a house party or going to hang out with some other people, they couldn't come back in my house. In fact, early on, there was a story. It was a guy in New York. His dad, the dad told the son, don't go on spring break. Don't come back with that. Son ignored him with the spring break. Son came home, locked out the house. Dad said, no, me and your mama fine. Can't bring your ass into the house. I'm with Dad 100%. 100%. This thing is killing people. And folks want to sit here and get together, get their damn haircut, or go get some nails done. Let's go to my panel. Quadrico Driscoll, adjunct professor at George Washington University. Dr. Avis Jones Weaver, a political analyst. Dr. Jason Nichols, African American Studies, University of Maryland. Glad to have all three of you here. I'm sorry, Jason, it just pisses me off. I don't understand. People literally are dying. People are dying who didn't have symptoms. People are dying who are being turned away from hospitals, and these idiots are out here having house parties and saying, oh, it's no big deal. What the hell? We're bulletproof.
You know, and it's crazy because a disproportionate number of black people are dying, you know, which makes it even more frustrating that people are still, you know, propagating this lie that black people can't get it. And I can tell you, I went to a Zoom funeral, couldn't even hug the family. You know, people are out there dying in hospitals, dying by themselves, where their family can't touch them. I know when, you know, not to make it too personal, but I know when my mother passed, the one thing that I could really hold on to was I got to see her last breath. She was surrounded by her family. People who are dying of COVID-19 aren't having that opportunity. They're dying in isolation by themselves. They aren't allowed. Their families can't have funerals. This is not a game. People are actually losing their lives. It's irresponsible. Even if you are somehow able to, you know, be asymptomatic and you know, you don't have the problems, you don't have the pre-existing conditions, you can pass that on to somebody who does have those conditions and they could die. It's irresponsible for us to be congregating in house parties. Your haircut isn't that important. Your shave isn't that important. I see you rolling, you and me both doing our same thing here. We both, you know, we understand the importance of social distancing and, you know, paying attention to the guidelines of what public health officials are saying.
Man, look, I don't give a damn about going to get my hair done. I don't care. Look, do you know what it's called? Pat down. It's called pat down. I'm sorry. We ain't playing this game. We're not playing this game. In fact, it was very interesting. Seth the Entertainer had posted this this photo called Corona Cuts. And the barber was over, and it was a trip. I saw the photo, and then a couple of hours later, I went back. He had taken it down. I think people hit him up and said, yo, bro, no, don't do that. Because there was a barber in Mississippi who was doing house calls. He's now dead because he got it, because he was doing house calls. Yes, a well-known black barber. He was doing house calls in Mississippi. He is dead. because he was doing house calls, giving folks haircuts.
It is tragic because that's a completely unnecessary death. I mean, people. It's so frustrating to see people downplay the gravity of the situation, and we all have personal responsibilities for our own lives, for the lives of our family, for those that we have responsibility to take care of, and those in our immediate space. And they're not only endangering their lives when they're in this house party, this ridiculously crowded space, which we now know that coronavirus can stay in the air of crowded spaces, so that the likelihood of actually being infected by this disease actually skyrockets when you're in those compacted situations like that. But not only are you taking your life into your own hands, when you go back home, you're taking the lives of all of those who love you most in your own hands. And we already know that Black people face implicit bias in healthcare situations. So say someone is tragically struck with coronavirus. When they go to the hospital, are they going to be seen? Are they going to be tested? If there are a limited number of ventilators, are they going to be prioritized over someone else? I mean, we already know that we have all of these barriers that we have to face when it comes to accessing healthcare. At least have sense enough not to put yourself in jeopardy so that you find yourself in a situation where you are struggling to save your own life, and all of a sudden, no one's there to help you.
Every single night. We've got some of the top Black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear Black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Cardle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Springs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she's a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. The Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the Black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandFilter.com. You can make this possible. Journalist Katie Couric recently recounted a story from a 2004 Dateline interview she did with Denzel Washington. And she said left her shaken. Listen to what she said in this podcast.
I had a very uncomfortable interview once with Denzel Washington about the remake of The Manchurian Candidate. And I think he totally misconstrued a question I asked and kind of jumped all over me. And it was so uncomfortable. I just remember leaving it and thinking, God, you know, I must have, I don't think I said anything wrong. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I think he must have been having a really bad day because he later wrote a big check to my colon cancer organization, which I thought was super sweet. And I love him. I admire him so much. He's one of my favorite actors. But I remember walking out and feeling really kind of shaken that he had kind of gone after me in a way that was completely, weirdly uncalled for.
What was interesting about this, and again, all for you, I found it to be interesting. She asked him about this question: should Hollywood actors stick to acting? His response was, "I'm not a Hollywood folk. I don't know who they are." She then tried to rephrase the question, but then he interrupted. He's saying he wasn't one of those people. Then she talked about being an actor, and he said, "Look, I'm a human being." In fact, here's the transcript. Denzel, do you feel you know some people say Hollywood folks should stick to acting? Denzel, I don't know what Hollywood folks are, first of all. Hollywood is a town that has some stars on the sidewalk. I don't know anybody from there. So that's like calling you a type of folks. I'm not a Hollywood folk. I don't know who they are. Couric, okay, all right. Well, let me rephrase the question. Are you one of those people that, he says, there you go. Am I one of those people? Isn't that interesting? She goes, oh, stop. He says, no, don't stop. I heard what you just said. Am I one of those people? No, I'm not. No, are you an actor who would rather not? No, I'm not an actor either. I'm not that either. I'm a human being. My job is acting. Okay, are you somebody who would rather not express his political views publicly? I mean, how do you feel about that? Some people are more outspoken than others. And what I meant, are you one of those people who would rather keep it private? Don't make my questions loaded when they're not. Washington, would I rather keep it private? No, I am not one of those people. I think I speak what's on my mind. Rob, do you understand what Denzel was getting at? And do you think that Katie Couric is being just a wee bit too sensitive herself?
Yes to both, both of those questions. I'll say, I guess she's so used to Denzel and sees any black man that might get an attitude with her as threatening. Like, just because he wasn't smiling or he wasn't saying what she wants to hear, somehow he's threatening, and that made her uncomfortable, which is ridiculous. You're a reporter. So if people disagree with you, you become uncomfortable. Like, I read the transcript, and I said there's got to be more here. And the only thing I could surmise is that maybe Katie Couric needs to find a way to get in the news again so she can pull up ratings for something she's trying to do. Maybe she's writing a book. Because I have no understanding of why she felt threatened or uncomfortable. It just seemed like she's really, really sensitive and shouldn't have been a reporter.
Kelly.
I don't know if you've heard about, people talking about white women who do things like this as being called Karens. This is definitely a Karen move. And I hate the fact that they call it Karen because my mother's name is Karen and, I digress. But for her to go this far over something that is over a decade old, 16 years old? This interview Manchurian came out in 2004, and in 2020 you bring up something that happened 16 years ago that, frankly, you actually did do. You did look like journalists know how to ask questions to glean the answer that they're looking for. So the fact that Denzel Washington did not fall for the trap of basically saying actors should stay in their lane she probably felt threatened by the fact that he didn't fall for her trap, not the fact that he actually stood up for himself. So that is the real key here. She really did load onto a question. It's a leading question. Lawyers do it, journalists do it, people who want to trap people into questions do it all the time. He didn't fall for it. She got salty, and apparently 16 years later, she's still salty about it. So, just go about your day. You're great on Instagram. Stay there.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, look, Robert, the reality is, I can bring up a story from 16, 20 years ago and recount that story. I think the fact that she talked about how shook she was. So I'm going to give my thoughts on it, but just you go ahead and weigh in.
Well, I think that this is an insult to Karens everywhere. This is not Karen behavior. This is straight Becky behavior. Because what she's doing is taking the fact that a black man would not submit to her, answer the question that she asked the way that he wanted it to be asked, and then started crying about it and said that she was so offended and so shaken by the fact that this man had the nerve. How dare you not say what I told you to say? And this goes part and parcel of the over-criminalization of African Americans within our criminal justice system. This goes towards the fact that right now, even with public health recommendations being that black men are supposed to wear masks while out in public, but we have to deal with the double consciousness and the fact that we understand that we are going to be looked at differently wearing a mask in public than other people wearing a mask in public, and just the oblivious nature of her to really try to turn herself into the victim in a situation where she was the actual aggressor. She wins the award for Becky of the Month.
Avis, your assessment.
I have to agree. Becky's be Beckian, okay? That was a classic Becky move, woe is me move, okay? It is insulting, and it is weaponized. Let's just say what that is. She weaponized her Beckydom in that moment, suggesting that, in essence, this big black man scared me and made me feel threatened. Because she apparently was embarrassed, and for some unknown reason, and I believe that maybe she does have some motive that we are unaware of in terms of wanting to draw publicity to her at this moment, because otherwise, why the heck bring this up again? But ultimately, it continues to bother her that she was outsmarted by this black man, by this intelligent, beautiful, and talented black man. And so it is very interesting to me that all of a sudden she plays, as Robert rightly said, this classic Becky move, and it's disturbing to see that it's getting any attention at all. But people are still sort of it's getting this media attention, and the legitimacy is crazy. If I was Denzel, I would be rather upset that he's basically using his stardom, because he's a much bigger star than she will ever be in terms of her notoriety in the journalism field. Let's just be honest, okay? She is using his stardom in order to bring more attention to her, and I absolutely believe it's because she has some motivation that we are unaware of yet, but we'll probably find out in the not too distant, in a not too far away future.
Here's what I think, actually. And this is the Katie Couric. Matter of fact, I ought to send her a text message right now and say, watch what I'm about to say. What Denzel Washington was actually trying to tell you, Katie, is look at me. Ask me. Don't group me with them. See, I think the mistake that we sometimes make is we fall into the Hollywood folks. Pull the transcript back up. I'm going to walk y'all through this so you can understand. And I'm going to put myself in terms of where Denzel is. So pull the transcript up, please. Some people say Hollywood folks should stick to acting. Right there. So let's break that down. She's saying some folks. I've gotten those type of questions, and then I go, who are some folks? Name some people. Like, what's the basis of the question? It actually is a lazy way for us to be able to ask the question, because what we're doing is we're not putting the onus on ourselves. We're putting it on some people. And then you say Hollywood folks. Hollywood folks. Ingenue Ellis is an actress who lives in Mississippi. I know people who are actors who live in Atlanta, who live in New York, who live in Houston, who live in Nebraska, who live in different places. So also when you pull the transcript back up, please. When you say Hollywood folks, stop right there. What that means is I'm not placing you in the category with them. That's that other thing, because the phrase Hollywood folks actually evokes a particular thing in your mind. Oh, give you an example. And my panel I'll ask them, what are some of the traditional phrases we hear that define Hollywood folks? Y'all spit some out.
Elite, left-wing liberals.
Or what else? What else?
That was going to be what I used.
No. What do we hear? Limousine liberals. If you use that phrase, it automatically evokes Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Also, left coast, Hollywood.
Yep.
When in fact, the left coast on a map is the entire left part of the country. So what does that mean? Washington State, Oregon, California. Y'all, it's some conservative places in California, but that's not what they mean. See, these phrases are being used for a reason. Transcript, please. So when you say, he says, I don't know what Hollywood folks are. First of all, Hollywood is a town. There's some stars on the sidewalk. I don't know anybody from there. So that's like saying, calling you a type of folks. I'm not a Hollywood folk. I don't know what they are. She goes, let me rephrase the question. Are you one of those people? Boom, right there. First of all, why are you automatically going to one of those people? This is all you have to say. Transcript back up, please. Because you see, she was going down to the whole deal of, in terms of politics.
Yep.
What Denzel was trying to say is, stop associating me with everyone else. In fact, the interview was Denzel, Meryl Streep, and I think it was Lee Schreiber. I can't remember who the third person was. Meryl Streep is actually far more of a vocal activist. What Denzel is saying, ask me. Look at me. Look at me. Transcript. When she says, no, are you an actor who would rather, he goes, stop. I'm a human being. My job is acting. What Denzel was saying, Katie, look at me. And simply say, Denzel, why aren't you more vocal on politics? What's behind it? I'll give you an example. Do you remember when their son was interviewed by Craig Melvin on NBC for Black Klansman? And remember when Craig Melvin asked him the question, John David Washington asked him the question about being the son of an actor, Denzel Washington. He had to gently check Craig Melvin, because Craig Melvin forgot his mama is an actor. Mm-hmm. Paulette Washington. See, that, Avis, to me, is what I think what Denzel, wasn't he was having a bad day. What Denzel was saying, see me for who I am. And don't bring in everybody else. So ask me, and don't use these phrases as a crutch that somehow now puts me in a box. That, I think, Avis, is what he was trying to say.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. And that makes sense in every sense of the word, especially since we all know that the reality and struggles and the experience of Black actors I would say, are discernibly different from the Hollywood life that she was in, the Hollywood experience that the typical white actor and white actresses have. And so in trying to sort of lump him into this big sort of a Hollywood muddle, she was putting him in that same experience. And I would bet my last dime that he had a discernibly different experience in Hollywood than some of his peers who are in that same industry. And so I can understand why he's saying, don't just sit here and lump me into some of this sort of abstract Hollywood notion that I don't align with, that doesn't reflect my life, doesn't reflect my values, doesn't reflect my experiences, does not reflect my history. See me, and ask me the question. And that's exactly the stance he should have taken, because to do otherwise would have been a misguided assumption.
And that, I think, for so many people, not really understanding this whole notion of look at me. So it's no different than Rob and Kelly if you're interviewing a musician, and it's like, whoa, don't associate me with them. Talk to me. Don't group me with what? No. Talk to me. I'm not them. I'm not. If I'm interviewing Chuck D, I'm not asking Chuck D about what Lil Wayne, what Migos, what 50 Cent, what Boosie. Chuck, like, whoa, that ain't me. How they roll, not how I roll. That, to me, I think is really what my man was saying.
Yeah, look, I actually think this is very simple. She knew that too. Again, she's looking to promote herself right now, look like the victim, and she knows that it would get play. She's talking about Denzel Washington, and she wanted to. And it's even better if he says something about it, because then the story continues. It continues. She's definitely doing this for promotion. There was nothing wrong with how he answered that question, and I don't really understand her outrage. I just don't, and I have no sympathy for it. Zilch.
So I do want to play. I think this is the clip, Kelly, where John David Washington was talking. About his mother, and it was sort of like, don't just narrow this whole thing down. Okay, so watch this.
As you got started in this business, being the son of Denzel Washington was...
And Pauletta Washington.
And Paul, thank you. And
who
Pauletta
was
Washington.
earning more money than he was when they married, before they got married. She was on Broadway working. She paid for the first date. She paid the bill, paid the cab ride. So, a classically trained pianist, went to Juilliard. She's a great artist in her own right, and I learned a lot from her. My father taught me how to hunt. My mother taught me how to love.
This portion of the interview.
That is what happens when, one, you listen to your subject and you don't simply put them in a box, Kelly.
Absolutely. Actually, that's one of my favorite interviews from John David Washington. During that time, when he was on that press cycle for Klansmen, he had to say that a lot to quite a few interviewers. And it was a little bit disheartening, because either way, let's just say that these reporters did their jobs, actually did thorough research and said, the son of Denzel and Pauletta Washington. You're still limiting an actor who is making his way up, who has a body of work in his own right. You're still limiting him to whatever his parents did. You're still limiting him to someone else's body of work. And then worse, you're limiting what he wants to do with what his parents did. So it's one of those things where you have to let people be who they are, and understand that just because you're affiliated with one group of people doesn't mean that you are that group of people. You are your own individual. And I see this a lot when it comes to people interviewing Black people as a whole. It's like you limit them to just being a singer. You limit them to just being an actor or a dancer or something in entertainment. And the implication therein is that you're not smart enough to reach this level of intellect that I'm trying to engage with you. And that's just entirely false, specifically when it comes to Denzel Washington. So the fact that Katie Couric even went there, the fact that the implications were just there in general, she was definitely doing a Becky. I like Becky over Karen. I feel like we should replace Karen with Katie altogether just because of this debacle. But yes, I agree.
Last point here, Robert. You know what? I really think, I really think, Robert, I really think what Katie Couric should do is go back and actually watch the interview again, and then take what Denzel said and then say, let me put myself in his shoes. I think she would understand it maybe a lot different. But when I read the transcript, I saw it and I went, yeah, I know exactly. And the reason why I find it to be interesting is because, and this actually happened. There are times when we interview people and they got attitude. They got attitude and they have a bad day and they don't care. I mean, two that come to mind for me was when I'm telling y'all, this actually happened. I'm working the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, City Hall reporter. Khalid Muhammad is coming to Fort Worth to speak. This was after he got suspended by Nation of Islam's leader, Louis Farrakhan. And Khalid Muhammad is from Houston, Texas. And I'm writing a profile on him coming. So I'm asking him questions about growing up in Houston, wanting to be a Baptist minister, going to Xavier University. And he is not being cordial. He's being extremely defensive. He goes, what's up with all these personal questions? So I had really gotten tired of, and this was a newspaper interview, so it was audio. I had really gotten tired, and I could tell the edge that was in his voice. And normally, Robert, the subject says, let's go off the record. I chose to go off the record, Robert. And this is what I said. I said, man, let me tell you something right now. I don't give a fuck about you, bean pies, bow ties, or nothing else, and your bald head ass. I said, these folks got your ass looking like a devil out here. I'm the only black male reporter in this whole newsroom. Don't nobody give a damn about your ass coming to Fort Worth and giving a speech. Now, you got two choices. You can answer my questions, or you can look like a damn fool when you bring your ass here with all the people surrounding you. Now, what your ass want to do? He goes, let's go back on the record. And from that day on to the day he died, a brain hemorrhage, he told his staff, whenever he called, you put his call through. It happened with Skip Gates. Skip Gates came to Texas A&M. I'm a student. I'm working on a story. And Skip was having in one of them moods. And I put that tape recorder. I said, look, man. I said, don't nobody give a shit about you coming to College Station. I said, in fact, they didn't know who the hell you were when I brought your damn name up. I said, so, you can talk to me? I said, but guess what? If you don't talk to me, this is not going to be in tomorrow's paper, and everybody going to be fine. You could just walk through this town and university with nobody know your ass was here. So you can have a little funky little ass attitude. You can answer my questions. We went back on the record. Now, obviously, Katie Couric wasn't going to do that with Denzel right there because they didn't have limited time. But sometimes you got to go there as a reporter. But I saw what I was feeling. I figured out real quick what Denzel was saying. That ain't hard. That's called being attentive to your subject.
Well, but even beyond that, even if Denzel did have an attitude or wasn't feeling it that day, so the hell what? He's a human being. He does not have to be juggling and smiling and kikiing for you just because you're interviewing him. You have a job to do. He has a job to do your job. Why are you bringing it up 16 years later saying that he hurt your feelings by not being as cheerful as you thought he should be? The level of privilege associated with this commentary, the level of dehumanization of somebody, of Denzel Washington in this case, as if he owes Katie Couric something just by the simple nature of her honoring him with the right to be interviewed by her. I think that's the most peculiar aspect of it to me. The fact that she thought that he owed her some level of submission just because she's asking him questions. I find the whole thing ridiculous.
All right, then. And I love the person who's like, interesting considering Khalid Muhammad is not here to contradict or confirm Roland's version of the events. All you got to do is call Hashim, his right-hand man, with the new Black Panther Party, since you want somebody to confirm it. Don't try me. Don't try me. It actually happened. Every single night. We've got some of the top Black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear Black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honoré, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Saul, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Bradeboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. The Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the Black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery jogging in Brunswick, Georgia on Sunday when he passed a man who was standing in his front yard. That man tells cops later that he looked like somebody who was involved in a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. Now, according to police, Gregory McMichael grabbed his gun, and his son, Travis McMichael, hopped into their truck to chase down this brother. They ended up shooting and killing him. But why aren't they in jail? How is it self-defense when the brother is jogging, minding his own business? Joining us right now is Lee Merritt. He is attorney for the family of the man who was shot and killed, Ahmaud Arbery. Lee, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So, how are these two not arrested for murder?
Well, it's very important to note, and as you pointed out, that the shooter, the father of the shooter, is former law enforcement. He was in the district attorney's office for that county for the last 2 decades, and before that, he was a police officer. And so the district attorney, who will be responsible for the indictment, backed out of it almost immediately because he had a personal relationship with it. They transferred this case over to the next jurisdiction, and that DA backed himself out of it as well. They had to transfer it a 3rd time. It is now with the DA for Liberty County in South Georgia. We are encouraging everyone to call Liberty County, where it's been for the past 2 months, and encourage them to start an investigation. Because when we called the GBI, they had not been called to investigate this case yet.
Now, this happened, first of all, I said at the top, I said Sunday. It did not happen Sunday. First of all, the date was February 23rd when this actually happened. The father and the son grabbed a .357 as well as a shotgun, followed. They pull up to him while he's jogging, shout, "Stop, we want to talk to you." First of all, Arbery doesn't know who the hell these guys are. Why these two white guys is able to asking him to stop? Under what authority did they have to even demand that he stop and talk to them?
Roland, I have to tell you, I believe that they were actually acting under police authority, both as being former law enforcement, and because police, I'm told by witnesses, were on the scene within seconds. And so that means law enforcement had already been contacted, and there was likely some sort of communication between this police officer for 2 decades and law enforcement who arrived to the scene prior to the shooting.
Now, this is I'm reading a piece from the New York Times. According to documents obtained by the New York Times, a prosecutor who had the case for a few weeks told the police that the pursuers had acted within the scope of Georgia's citizens arrest statute, and that Travis McMichael, who held the shotgun, had acted out of self-defense. First of all, let's just reset this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that was nothing more than opinion by a friend of the shooter, right? And so this was not a legal opinion. Any attorney, even and I've spoken to the attorneys both in the state of Georgia and other people who have just looked at federal law, because that law in the first place needs to be challenged on its face, because the idea may be race neutral, but in places like South Georgia, that is giving white vigilantes a green light to go hunt down black people. That's how that law works out. So that law needs to be challenged on its face. But even under the law, it fails to meet the proper standards. He did not conduct himself as a person who was apprehending a suspect. He conducted himself as a person going out hunting for a black man.
Well, here's what's interesting. Again, I'm reading the New York Times piece. But others contend that Mr. Arbery was up to no good. On the day of the shooting, and apparently moments before the chase, a neighbor in Satilla Shores, where he was running, called 911, telling the dispatcher that a black man in a white T-shirt was inside a house that was under construction and only partially closed in. And he's running right now, the man told the dispatcher, there he goes right now. Then it says, in his letter to the police, Mr. Barnhill, the prosecutor, noted that Mr. Arbery had a criminal past. He was convicted of shoplifting and of violating probation in 2018. 5 years earlier, he was indicted on charges that he took a handgun to a high school basketball game. Okay, but here's the problem here. There is nothing to indicate he was robbing a place. Nothing. And so how can you make a citizen's arrest and the only thing that you have in the case is this black guy jogging?
Right, right. Even the so-called dwelling that they were qualifying, you cannot burglarize a dwelling with no doors. That's impossible. And so this dwelling that he allegedly was seen in, or someone with a white, some black person with a white T-shirt was seen in, was a dwelling without any windows or doors. You can't burglarize that under the legal definition.
First of all, is there an actual investigation? It's been transferred, but is there an investigation? Is that prosecutor's office? I mean, like, is someone actually doing an investigation?
My office contacted the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. They will require the DA, when they receive the file, because the DA is not from that county, he can't send out his investigators. He would have to contact the GBI to help him with the investigation. When I spoke with the GBI earlier today, they said they had not received a phone call from the district attorney over the case.
Okay, so you're representing the family. Has this prosecutor even talked to the family and given them an update of what's going on?
The family was told that they received the file 2 months ago, and they have not heard from them since. We contacted the district attorney's office today. My office has been calling nonstop. They have refused to answer our calls. We sent out a certified letter today to put them on notice that this victim's family needs to liaison with them, which is what they're required to do under the law.
Wow, this is a story that has not gotten lots of traction, primarily because of obviously all the attention being on coronavirus. Now, the family of Mr. Arbery has certainly they've been trying to raise the attention on social media. The hashtag I Run with Maud, MAUD, or also Justice for Ahmaud, AHMAUD. They printed up T-shirts, things along those lines as well. And so, I mean, this is just stunning that 2 months have gone by, and you do not have what should be a real investigation taking place. This black man is dead, 25 years old. These two folks are walking around free, and so what? I mean, are they saying that in Georgia you get to basically accost anybody who's black regardless of what they're doing?
Yeah. The scary thing about this case is what happened was horrific enough. That's every mother's fear, that their son just goes for a jog and is randomly killed by two white vigilantes. That's scary enough. But how the city, the people responsible for investigating and prosecuting the men who did this, how they've handled it since is actually more scary. That's actually what makes it a lynching, Roland. It's because it's sending a signal to that entire community that you're not protected, that you're not safe, because vigilantes can do this to you and nothing will be done to them.
What's crazy here is that the prosecutor who basically said nothing really happened here, again, reading the New York Times, Mr. Barnhill, wrote that he did not believe there was evidence of a crime, noting that Gregory McMichael and his son had been legally carrying their weapons under Georgia law. And because Mr. Arbery was a burglary suspect, the pursuers who had solid first-hand probable cause were justified in chasing him under the state citizen's arrest law. Okay, here's what I'm trying to understand. He was jogging by. How did those two have probable cause, and how did he go from a guy jogging to being a suspect? Did these two see him steal something? Did these two hear a neighbor say, hey, that man just stole something? I mean, how does Barnhill arrive at these conclusions?
This is my suspicion. I just got involved with this case 24 hours ago. But my guess is that that these two men were coordinating directly with law enforcement. I say that because, as I said at the top, I've spoken with witnesses who were actually present during the shooting, nearby neighbors, who said that law enforcement came in, responded within seconds of the shooting, that they were already out, essentially, or near the area of the shooting. I believe that this 30-year lawman had already been coordinated with law enforcement before he killed Ahmaud.
Oh, I think when you read this, and first of all, again, They claim there was a video shot by a third bystander, and that, according to them, the video shows Arbery tried to grab the shotgun. Again, I'm reading from the New York Times. Grab the shotgun from Travis McMichael's hands, Mr. Barnhill wrote, and that he argued amounts to self-defense under Georgia law. I don't care if you have a right to carry a gun. You don't have the right to accost me and stop me. And if all of a sudden, if two white guys in a truck in Georgia roll up saying, stop, we want to talk to you, and they get out with a gun, I'm damn sure not going to just stand there and go, okay, sure, let's have a conversation.
No, absolutely not. So that law doesn't deputize the entire population to obey white men. I mean, that's essentially how the law would have to work. That when men show up with guns and tell you to stop, then you have to stop or you can be killed.
This is, again, an absolutely stunning story, tragic story. Lee Merritt, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, I want to bring in my panel right now. Adrienne Irmer, she's a fellow for the New Leaders Council of Chicago. Melik Abdul, Republican strategist. Kelly Bethea, communication strategist. Adrienne, I'll start with you. I mean, to listen to the details of this story, it is shocking, it's stunning, it's sad, but what you're also seeing is clear protection of one of their own by these prosecutors.
Yeah, I would have to agree there. But I also want to echo what Lee was saying in that these laws are supposed to be race neutral, but when you're in a place in small town Georgia, these aren't race neutral policies. And it does effectively become, if a white man pulls up and asks you to have a conversation with a gun in his hand, you're just supposed to acquiesce and submit. I did some digging around online, and I'm not an attorney, and I wish Lee was still here, because citizens arrest laws, the ones that I've seen, require that you physically witness the crime happening. And these two men clearly didn't witness anything. They saw this young man taking a jog, running, and they presumed guilt because of the color of his skin in the neighborhood that he was in. So, I'm hoping that justice can be served for this young man and his family, because this is tragic and sort of racism at its worst.
First of all, you're absolutely right. What you have here, again, you do have sort of this breakdown of laws. Kelly, I want to go with you. This whole idea that Arbery should just stop, hey, what you guys like? That's insane. I mean, I don't know of anybody, whether you're black or white, Latino or Asian, where if somebody just rolls up on you in a truck and yells, hey, stop, we want to talk to you, that you're going to be like, sure, how may I help you?
If not only that, if somebody rolled up on me in a truck and I am, just minding my business, that would prompt me to run. That would prompt me to get away, because just based off of history and what I was taught, how I learned to conduct myself in the world, that's a threat, especially if I don't know you. So the fact that this young man was in Georgia, minding his business for all intents and purposes, two white men in a truck rolling up on a young black man for no reason, there's nothing there that purports that these men knew what was happening. There's no reason to purport that this was even a citizen's arrest, because like my colleague just said, citizen's arrests typically mean that you saw the crime in progress, and because police are not there in a given time frame in order to arrest at that time, lest the person get away, that's when a citizen's arrest is warranted, so that you are there like a placeholder for the police, but only for a short amount of time. A citizen's arrest does not include you chasing somebody down in a car to accost them and then shoot them. That's not a citizen's arrest. That's a murder.
Agreed.
Melik, I'm sitting here reading, this is the Georgia Code. It says 2010 Georgia Code, Title 17, Chapter 4, Article 4, arrest by private persons. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, I'm go to my iPad here, and I want you to see this again. I'll go back. If the offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now, that's reading the actual code. Now, I want to read for you. This is from the Georgia Legal Aid website when it speaks of citizen's arrest. And let me get to it here. And so here's the section here. When making a citizen's arrest, a person may not use more force than is reasonable to make the arrest. Deadly force is limited to self-defense or to instances in which such force is necessary to prevent certain felonies. It must be stressed that the right of private citizens to make a citizen's arrest is limited. The fact that this prosecutor is serving as essentially the defense attorney for these two men shows you why they should have been recused. But the other issue is the fact that this prosecutor has already laid out a statement of facts for another prosecutor now take into account. That prosecutor, the moment, McMichael's involved, he used to be an investigator for our office, I can't touch this case, it needs to be transferred. The fact that this prosecutor has already outlined this whole deal, meaning he has established a narrative for the purpose of defending both of these men.
I'm pretty positive that I'm not the only one who immediately thought of Trayvon Martin in what happened with George Zimmerman, as he decided to do. And in that case, he was in contact with law enforcement who told him not to pursue Trayvon Martin, and that's exactly what he did, ultimately killing him. And as we talked about with Trayvon, I'm pretty sure that anyone who's approached by strangers would be apprehensive, would have any reservations or whatever. So the fact that something like this is happening again, then it was argued, understand your ground laws. Under that actual, those grounds, George Zimmerman got off. It seems as if in this case, and this case is a little, to me, a little more clear-cut than what we had in Trayvon Martin's. I'm sorry, this one isn't as clear-cut as what we had in the Trayvon Martin case, but the law, the application of the law is, I think that's probably what we're going to be looking at, how it's resolved. But once again, we're reminded of, for us, what it feels like being Black in America. And I think that those, the gentleman, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but I think that the victim in this case, he should definitely have his rights protected. And whatever the family and the public can do to make sure that this case gets some attention, I'm hoping that if that happens, then that it's resolved.
And of course, first of all, Ahmaud Arbery was actually killed 3 days before the 8th anniversary of the shooting death of Trayvon Martin. We certainly are going to continue to watch this story and pay very much attention to what is going on. Every single night, we've got some of the top Black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear Black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first Black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he's the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patel Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist. Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association. Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Cardle. Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist. Kat Stafford, she's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York. William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist. Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she's a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with The Root. The Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon McDougall, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi. Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You getting the top medical experts, top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, if you're drafted to the NFL, it should be a great day, but New England Patriots kicker Justin Rohrwasser has had a hell of a problem for the last week. Of course, he's received a lot of criticism for a tattoo he got when he was 18 years old. The tattoo on his left forearm resembles the logo of a far right-wing militia group, the 3 Percenters. Rohrwasser said that he had a different understanding of the tattoo's meaning until recently when someone on social media linked the tattoo with the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Now, he initially told reporters that he would have the tattoo covered up, but recently decided that he will get it removed. Of course, this is being talked about back and forth from a lot of different people. And of course, Jason Whitlock came to his defense by saying people like Jemele Hill, Bomani Jones, and others don't know what they're talking about by calling this group racist. Listen to this.
Well, at the end of the day, as someone that prides myself on being a journalist, what's happening to this kid is unfair. It's the role of the media not to be unfair to individuals. Again, there's no proof that this particular group, the 3 Percenters, who none of us had heard of until this controversy, or most of us, 99.9%, had never heard of. There's no proof the organization's racist. The group is pro-guns and pro-limited government. That's been pretty clear. And so for Jemele Hill, Bomani Jones, or anybody else who has no other credibility, no other traction other than unfairly tarnishing people with charges of racism, yeah, maybe they won't let it go, but it should end. And I do think the conversation and the remarks from his teammates, I do think they are valid. When people besmirch your character in any way, you call in character witnesses, and the words of people that actually have played with this young man is more valid than Jemele Hill on a Twitter feed or Bomani Jones firing off an irresponsible column on The Undefeated. The words of the people that actually have interacted with him, because trust me on this,
okay,
if they ever ask
take
me
the audio,
about some
guys,
of my
take it
Ball
out.
State team,
I got enough for Jason Whitlock. All right, let's bring in sports journalist Howard Bryant. All right, Howard, look, you've covered sports, you've covered Boston sports very well. Just your take on this whole deal. First, that he says, Jason, that he thought that, this Justin Rohrwasser, he thought that this was a military symbol when he first got it. Then later said, oh, I didn't know what that was. Just what do you make of all of this?
Well, first of all, I'm throwing a 15-yard flag on you, Roland, for throwing Jason Whitlock on this at all in the first place. That's 15 yards at least.
Well, well, first of all, you always got to show buffoonery anytime you can. We do have a segment called Crazy Ass White People, and so I might as well have one called Crazy Ass Black People. But go ahead.
No, my original feeling is that I think that when you're looking at him as a character, as a person, you're responsible for your own actions. And I think that what does it say about you if you're putting things in your body if you don't know what they mean? And what does it say about the vetting process of the NFL, where you can go and you can ask all kinds of questions about the personal lives of these athletes, especially the black athletes. You're going to talk about Des Bryant's mother, and you're going to talk about these different athletes whose parents, family members have drug issues, but you're not going to comment on this. Essentially, what you're talking about is it's a free pass that these guys have because they're not paying attention. And you don't even need to extrapolate much further than that in terms of what the priorities are. And, I was surprised. I wasn't really surprised by the number of people who sort of fell over backwards to protect or defend him. I just look at it this way. How many people put things in their body that are permanent and they have no idea what they mean?
Right, and look, first of all, I don't have a tattoo, never gonna have a tattoo. You ain't got to brand my ass. I know exactly who I am, and I can remember my name. But the reality is that, and then, of course, when Whitlock spouts up, oh, well, no one ever heard of this group. Well, first of all, the Southern Poverty Law Center characterizes nearly 600 extremist groups. And so it's not like you're walking around and you're memorizing all 600 extremist groups. And the reality is these extremist groups that Jason just acts like is no big deal, those are the people who were in Michigan today. Those are the people who are in the state capitol in Wisconsin. Those are the people who parade around with their guns, flashing their guns. And in fact, again, in Canada, they consider them the most dangerous extremist group there. To your point, the NFL, it's amazing how they will go deep into your family. Talking about drugs and your associates. Look at Bill O'Brien questioning who DeAndre Hopkins has around, trying to bring up Aaron Hernandez. And so, yeah, this is going to get dealt with. And when the public sees it, they're going to say, hey, what's that on your arm?
Well, exactly. And I think that's the issue that people aren't paying very much attention to is this is also a labor issue in terms of the entire interview process when it comes to the draft, the entire process on how you treat these black athletes and how you treat the white athletes. And also, let's face it, if you're looking at the NFL, and, you and I have been having this conversation for years anyway, just the level of subtle and not very subtle anti-blackness in the sport. Let's not forget Riley Cooper with the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's not forget the anti-Kaepernick sentiments. Let's not forget what's happening here with the Patriots. There is absolutely a pattern with what takes place in that locker room and who gets scrutinized and who doesn't get scrutinized. And it's something that needs to be looked at much, much more on the part of the journalists covering these teams, simply because at the very least, you've got a double standard in terms of the evaluation process.
And look, first of all, let me go ahead and say this here. I don't have to defend him. He can defend himself. But frankly, Jason was idiotic because what Bomani said in his column was very simple, that more questions should be asked. Simple as that.
Good point.
And especially when we see how many of these coaches and general managers, they will ask a black athlete a whole lot of questions. In fact, a lot of people are still pissed off with the NFL for what they did on draft night, where you swear we had to bring up every draft pick whose mama or daddy was in jail or who had a drug problem, who had gotten arrested. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell does that have to do with draft night?
That's right. And if it's that much of an issue, if you're going to sort of create storylines, and because what they're doing is that they're furthering the same NFL as savior, debtor in jail sort of golden ticket narrative that they like to push, that that race in the United States is essentially a lottery, and that if you make it big, if you've got the talent to be in the NFL, you can put the class past that you may have behind you. And so that puts the NFL in this positive light of being the savior, when it really is just completely offensive. What it really is why are you in my family's business in the first place? And if it's that big an issue for you, if you're going to try to create an issue, then why are you drafting me in the first place? It's insulting to the families, and instead what they're doing is they're using it as part of the NFL and the sports storyline, especially when it comes to black athletes in general. If it weren't for us, you'd be in jail, or you'd be dead, or have some drug problem.
And there's a line here that I love that Bomani said. He said, but guys like Rohrwasser rarely have to answer for themselves. And when they do, they get patted on the back, like he's mentioned someone named Burton, a black reporter, did by telling his audience he didn't think Rohrwasser was a racist and telling viewers to give the kid a chance. Okay, so let me sort of unpack this, because, see, this is part of the problem that people have. First of all, I don't see anywhere in here in this article, Jason, I think you're dead wrong, where Bomani called the kid a racist. It's not in the article. But here's the problem with this whole deal. Whenever we have these discussions, they're framed in racist, not racist. If he does have a tattoo of a group that's an anti-government militia group, you damn right you should be asking those questions, because these are the same people who went after Colin Kaepernick for wearing socks.
Well, and also
for wearing a Fidel Castro shirt. So why does he get to be questioned, but this kid can't be questioned about that 3%er tattoo, which is a hell of a lot different than wearing a T-shirt?
Well, let's also go one step beyond this as well. As much as we may want to frame this in a Kaepernick versus Kaepernick sort of question, in terms of treatment versus treatment of others, let's also look at it from a standpoint even outside of race. And that is where things get to be problematic, because people just stop listening the minute they hear a race. You have a player in the NFL who is affiliated with, or who is supporting, an organization that essentially supports antagonism, if not overthrow, of the federal government. Right? I mean, so you're looking at the Bundys and the Wacos and all of these types of people and all the militia stuff that you've got up there in Idaho and all of this. Is this what you want represented? And can you imagine if you had an African-American player who was even marginally, if somebody walked in on draft day with a T-shirt of the Black Panthers or of Bobby Seale or something, it would be disqualifying for that player. That player would be ostracized and attacked, and it would be a national story. And so even if you take the racial elements away, look at the characteristics, or look at the positions of this organization that he has a tattoo of, and he's affiliated with them. And you can take the black people out of it, and he needs to answer for that himself.
And it does speak to, again, in terms of how these things are viewed. And the bottom line is this here, whether folks will own it or not, and that is, when you're African American, there's a much greater scrutiny. You have to explain everything. You have to go through everything, as opposed to how other folks are. And I think that's what we're seeing right here. And let's just be clear. They're sitting here talking about why this kid can't. Oh my God, what he's going through, how he's being treated. How about the kid from the Dallas Cowboys, who was a sure first-round draft pick, top 15 draft pick, who the night before, all of a sudden they said murdered somebody. Mm-hmm. And he plummets. And then all of a sudden, my bad, he wasn't involved.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other point, because what is taking place here? The framework of all of this is that if you're black in this game, you need to be grateful that we're bringing you into this sport. You are immediately at a disadvantageous position. You're not simply an employee. You're not simply a player, but you're somebody that we're saving. You're somebody that needs to be grateful, because what do they always say about playing in the NFL is a privilege? And those standards don't exist for other players. And that is the pressure. That is that sort of level of anti-blackness that I'm talking about when you go into the NFL and basketball as well, and baseball to a lesser extent, but especially football. That mindset is, we're doing you a favor for being here. Otherwise, you can go back to the hood, which is the reason why they feel so, these coaches feel so emboldened to be so brazen in their questioning. And as we saw on draft night as well, you could see the racial components of this dynamic where you look at all of these executives, they're virtually all white. We already know the owners are virtually all white. And this is how they treat the black workforce. And essentially they gave a pass to a white kicker.
Let's talk about that. I want to bring my panel in as well. So let's put Howard in the 4-box with them. And that is Howard. Speak to this, and then I'm going to go to the panel. A lot of black folks, a lot of black coaches and others who were pissed off on draft night because you saw the isolation, and what you saw is you saw white after white after white after white after white after white coach or owner or top exec, and they could not add a little color in the back.
Not this time. Not this dynamic. No, and I think this is the thing. After we saw in the Super Bowl, when you saw the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Eric Bieniemy not get any offers and not get elevated as he would have had he been a white coordinator, is that everybody is starting to see what everybody in the game knows. They're not hiding it. They're letting you know what this dynamic is. And once again, we talk about having power. We talk about players having power or coaches having power. And you realize that they don't really have that much because you are in this sort of bullseye where they don't have to hire you. And so you can talk about all the Rooney rules as you want. You can talk about diversity and inclusion and all of these different things. But the bottom line is watching that dynamic on draft night, looking at those demographics, they're telling you exactly what this game is. It's white owners, white coaches, black player.
And the bottom line, Greg, I think back, as we talk about the tattoo, but also this, remember when Cam Newton got signed drafted by the Carolina Panthers? Their owner, the first thing he told him, tell me you don't have any tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the first things he told him. And when you saw that, I mean, people need to understand, when you see NFL owners who are Trump supporters, who are Republican donors. I was talking to one person who, I won't the person who told me, but this person, a very rich African American, had this Obama shirt, and this person said, they wanted this person to go into the suite of Daniel Snyder, and they said, you're going to wear that? Because he doesn't like Obama. And this person said, I'm not taking my damn shirt off for him. They said, I can go to another suite. That's what you're dealing with here. And so when you see these white male politics, that's the NFL, Greg. That's real.
Sure it is. And, the one of the things I really respect about you, Brother Brian, is that in the tradition of a Ralph Wiley or my brother Bill Rhoden or Jamel Hill or Bomani Jones, because you are writing about sports, there are sports writers who will shy away from the political issue. But what you did in this book right here, Full Dissident, that end where you start talking about us being renters in this country, when I look at that boy's arm, I get the white supremacist symbol of the 3%ers, but I also get the white supremacist symbol of the liberty or death and the American flag.
Well, that is funny. That's the
help
other
us
point.
understand how all of those operate in a field of violence that are signaling this is a white man's country. And all of those symbols mean the same thing in that young man's mind.
Well, that's right. And that was the thing that got me, and Bomani and I were talking about this. I said it wasn't just the 3%ers tattoo. It was the other two around it. The rest that we could see also that made it very, very clear what his position is and where he's getting this type of the types of attitudes. It's not an isolated incident. And I think Bo made a really good point, too, when he and I were on the phone about this, where he had said he was also allowed to have that tattoo. And are you honestly going to tell me that nobody questioned it when they saw it? No one said a word about it? We all know what we're talking about here. And I think that this is this period, Roland, that we're in, Greg, that they are making it very clear who this country belongs to. and they're not hiding it. That's one of the things about Full Dissidence that always, that and the book before that, The Heritage, but especially with Full Dissidence, I tell people all the time that the work that we're doing right now, it's not Watergate. We're not digging up all kinds of sealed documents. It's not the Pentagon Papers. They're not hiding it. They're telling us directly in our faces how they feel about us and who this country belongs to.
Erica, when we start, first of all, Erica, you got a question for Howard.
I do. So having not read your book, but certainly going to be picking that up very soon, but did read William Rhoden's The $40 Million Slave, and thinking about in that context, what is it, and you mentioned that, really where the power structure does lie. So to a new crop, a new generation, excuse the word crop, but for a new generation of athletes, what do you think should be the permeating message as they consider moving forward, perhaps in their sports career, be it football, baseball, basketball?
Well, it depends. That depends on whose camp you fall in. Do you fall in Carmelo Anthony's camp, or do you fall in my man David Ortiz's camp? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I remember when David Ortiz was with the Red Sox, and he and I were talking, and we were talking about how, from a black standpoint, obviously we know the numbers in baseball are so low. You're down to 7%. There are 68%. There are 68 African Americans in the entire game of Major League Baseball on the field, and the Latinos in the game are looking at 25 to 35%. And so you've got this huge number, but you don't have any Latino managers. You've got a couple. You've got, you've got Davey Martinez, my boy Davey, over with the Nationals. And you don't have that many against the percentage of the Latino players in the game. And David said to me point blank, that's why I tell all these young guys, get as much money as you can and get your black ass out of the game. That's David's camp. You're not going to get any opportunities. That what's going to happen in this sport. And in some ways, it's the way the Michael Jordan looked at things, which is you're not going to get a real seat at the table. Get as much money as you can. You're going to be compensated. You will get money, but you won't get power. Right. Now, if you go to the Carmelo Anthony camp, when he and I talked about this, his feeling is that you need a new consciousness. You need that these young black athletes need a new consciousness. They need to understand that money can translate into power as long as you don't spend it all on cars. Use what you have and one day create. His feeling is that if the will is there, one day it's possible for these players to begin to make these connections with the really powerful people and to have a player-based ownership, to have maybe a rival league that's player-owned, something like that. Carmelo looks at it very, very differently. So on the one hand, you have some players like David Ortiz, like Papi and those guys who say, look, we're not going to get anything, but you are going to get money, spend it, save it wisely, and then move on to your second act. On the other hand, you've got Carmelo who says, if you play this properly, there's a role here for you that nobody sees, but you've got to be willing to take the risk to do it.
Reese.
Yeah, my comment was more so about how the NFL bent over backwards to prove to white America that the NFL is patriotic, to try to counter Colin Kaepernick's message of protest, and yet they seem to have no sense of duty or responsibility to prove to Black America that they do not agree with white supremacy, that they don't want to take any action to a person they aren't remotely invested in. This person was a draft pick, and it was just simple for them to say, you know what, he has too much baggage, let's move on to somebody else. Why? Yeah. What do you think that message? What should we do? I mean, I know people don't have the appetite for boycott NFL again, or the NFL might not even have any sports for a while. But as consumers, when are we as Black people going to harness our power and say, you need to prove to us that you are not disregarding our consumer power?
Well, I don't think that there's a third way. I think that what people understand is money. I think what owners understand is money. And I think that as long as you look at the Black spending power on merchandise, maybe not nearly as much on tickets, but certainly when it comes to merchandise and it comes to the NFL package and it comes to all the different ancillary revenue streams that the NFL gets from the Black community, you have to be willing to make a choice to cut that off. I mean, when we talk about boycott, I always go back, you don't want to go back that far into history, obviously, but it is still very instructive. that you can't have protest and you can't have boycotts and you can't have a financial, you can't make a financial stand without taking a risk. That the Montgomery bus boycott lasted a year. They were willing to make that sacrifice through the winter, through the summer. They were willing. What are you willing to risk? Are you ready to say, you know what? The only language you understand is me turning off my TV and me not buying, that Lamar Jackson jersey, and that this is the language that they have to understand, and this is what I'm willing to do. If you're not willing to do that, it's very, very difficult to get anybody to listen, because at the end of the day, you gave them your money.
Again, folks, what we're dealing with here is an understanding of sports and power. And so I'm going to have Howard back. Every Thursday we have, of course, we're going to have a new segment. Well, not new. I talk about it all the time. It'd be Roland's Book Club. We're going to have that every Thursday. And so we're going to come back. We're going to have another day. We're going to talk about your book in specifically and some other stuff I definitely want to cover. But Howard Bryant, I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Ben, my pleasure. I'll call you.
All right, sir. We'll do it. All right, folks. Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders. John Hope Bryant, he is the founder of Operation Hope. Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Sadrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, Senior Economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kip Ward. Dr. Oliver Brooks is President of the National Medical Association, President of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris. Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, Infectious Disease Specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, Family Medicine Physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Spriggs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Eddie British Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolanda Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with the group. Lamina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do. Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. The reality is this, Scott. Trump's polling numbers are way down. There was one story I read coming in where he was yelling and screaming at his campaign manager on Friday for his failing poll numbers, but it's because he was running his mouth at news conferences and constantly lying to people. I mean, what you have here, this is the real deal here. What Donald Trump wants to do is he wants to shove everything to the states and say, yo, I'm good. I'm good. I did everything. I'm good. I'm playing. Y'all let me know what you need. That's why this whole deal, we're the backstop. We'll get this here. They do not want to assume any responsibility for this, and they want to blame, here's going to be the first thing, Democratic governors. Cuomo, Newsom, Pritzker in Illinois, the governor in Michigan. That's what the game here is. It's not to actually save Americans. That is not the plan here.
No, and it never has been. Remember, the 70 days. 70 days they waited. They created the problem, and now they want to be seen as saving America from the problem that they, in large part, created. So that's the first thing. The second of all, when you wait 70 days, you cannot lead at that point. And so the most convenient part is we're going to be a backstop for the states, and then he can blame the governors, as he blamed China for withholding information, as he blamed the World Health Organization for not being allegedly honest. But the buck stops with the federal government. The federal government should be leading on this effort. They've certainly got more money than the state. And what you're getting on the ground from the state governors and some Republican governors is completely inconsistent with what the press conferences, the information from the press conferences. And wouldn't it be ironic and fitting that the economy has tanked because they waited 70 days? The information that they're sharing isn't the truth on the ground, so his supporters and his detractors are being affected by it. They're not testing the people that they say that they have tested. The revenue, or rather the resources, aren't on the ground unless in some states there are. And so this is something that Donald Trump cannot politically run away from. It sits right in his lap. And it'll be interesting to see, notwithstanding the polling, how many people, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, blame the White House. I haven't seen the recent figures, but some of the figures I looked at 2 or 3 weeks ago, that the blame was sitting, even with some of his supporters, on his lap, because it's been documented what he did wrong. The virus doesn't care about politics or Donald Trump. It cares about infecting people, and you can't politicize or create false facts or fake facts to beat this virus. This virus is winning until we get our arms around it.
And look, again, at the end of the day, what this is the real motivation here, Eugene. Only thing Donald Trump can run on is the economy. And he is so desperate. He is so desperate to be able to say the economy came roaring back. See, stock market's going up. That's it. That's it. He knows he can't run on nothing else. That's it.
Can't run from it.
And look, this is what you're seeing, right? There's a poll released today that shows he's down in Texas to Biden by 1 point. Every other poll that's come out over the last week has shown him down to Biden in multiple places by 5 or 6 points. The economy is done for the year. I mean, the GDP report that came out today, the economy shrank 5%, and job losses and folk filing for unemployment skyrocketing week in, week out. And so his only thing that he could have run on was the economy, and that card is out the window. So he's freaking out because he knows that without the only positive message he possibly could have presented, he has nothing to run on. So he's putting pressure on all these red state governors to restart their economies. But, what he doesn't understand is that forcing these restarts early will actually cost lives, and a lot of those lives will be Trump supporters.
Cleo, I'm sitting here looking at the New York Times, and it says the U.S. coronavirus death toll is actually higher than reported. According to CDC data suggests total deaths in 7 hard-hit states are nearly 50% above normal. Mm-hmm. That's what the CDC is saying. When you look at these numbers, and they're talking about New York State, New Jersey, Michigan, Massachusetts, Illinois, Maryland, Colorado.
Well, this is to be expected with a respiratory virus, a virus that's transferred through spittle, through breath liquids, and people breathing. And so not everybody's wearing masks, and no one knows when they first came in contact with coronavirus. So I think that we're still going to be hearing more and more, as you have just showed us with that data. But I think it's interesting when you go back to Trump, is to understand that he has never been able to admit fault. He has never been able to admit when he's challenged. He's always used rhetoric and talking about how wonderful and how great and how excellent and how beautiful and how perfect things are to come off as winning. He's always been able to talk his way through things. And I'm not sure, because the man was a crook day one in 2016 and before when he was running, if he'll lose. I mean, obviously, statistically, it looks like he's going to lose because, as Eugene mentioned, he can't use the economy anymore to say, look how great I am. But we're being logical again. And logic is why people thought that he was not going to become president in the first place. There is some conscious or unconscious concern among his constituents and people who don't allow themselves to be known to be part of his constituents about white people staying in power. But at the same time, Biden is white, Biden is running, and Biden is not particularly affirming of black people in demonstrative ways while he's running. As you know, they're talking about hoping that he picks a black woman. That's a whole other topic. But the bottom line is that, getting back to Trump and this virus, he lost. We lost. And the reason that in the very beginning it took us so long to jump aboard and take care of this is because, again, he's very concerned about how he looks. And he didn't want to talk about any tears in what he was doing. And here we are. But we will see, and it's still a mystery from my perspective, if that's going to matter when it comes to the next election, even though Biden is an older white man too, so that will help in terms of creating some real competition for Trump.
All right.
Yeah, but Roland, one other thing is he can't grow from that 40%. He couldn't before, but he really can't now because of the economy and this pandemic.
Every single night, we've got some of the top black experts. You're not going to see them on cable news or broadcast news because you swear black people aren't experts when it comes to this health crisis. That's why we have this show and why we do what we do every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Joining us right now is retired General Russell Honore, the nation's first black Surgeon General, Dr. Joycelyn Elders, John Hope, the founder of Operation Hope, Senator Kamala Harris of California, Dr. Cedrina Calder, retired General Lloyd Austin, Congresswoman Karen Bass, Commissioner Omari Hardick, Bureau President in Brooklyn, Eric Adams, Dr. Joseph Graves, America's Wealth Coach, Deborah Owens, Dr. Corey Abear, Patal Salt, Howard University student, Pastor Jamal Bryant, Dr. Christy McDowell, Benja Ajilore, senior economist at the Center for American Progress, Gilda Daniels, again, author of the book, The Crisis of Voter Suppression in America. 4 stars, General Kit Ward, Dr. Oliver Brooks is president of the National Medical Association, president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, Joby Benjamin, Dr. Alexia Gaffney, infectious disease specialist, Dr. Georges Benjamin, executive director of the American Public Health Association, Malcolm Nance, family medicine physician, Dr. Jen Caudle, Dr. Tashaka Cunningham, a molecular biologist, Kat Stafford. She's a national race and ethnicity reporter for the Associated Press. Dr. Wayne A.I. Frederick, who is the president of Howard University, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the state of New York, William Springs, AFL-CIO economist, Andrea James, executive director of the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. All right, let's go to Capitol Hill. Congressman Gregory Meeks, Congresswoman Enid Johnson of Texas, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, mental health clinician Jamie Singletary, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy, as well as Dylan Hayrie, ACLU Justice Division strategist. Dr. Cindy Duke, she is a virologist. Principal Steve Perry of Capitol Prep. Health and wellness specialist Dr. Yolandra Hancock. Desmond Meade, president of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. Cliff Albright, who is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Michael Harriet with the Root. The Mina McWhorter, founder of Love by the Hand. Dr. Julianne Malvo, economist, president, Emerita Bennett College. Coroner Michael Fowler is the mayor of Atlanta. Keisha Lance Bottoms, mental health therapist Suzette Clark. Justin Gibney, attorney and political strategist, and Bishop Vincent Matthews Jr. Dr. Suzette McKinney, CEO and executive director of the Illinois Medical District. Dr. Leon Madugal, president-elect of the National Medical Association. Jana Bailey, mayor mayor of Moss Point, Mississippi, Mario King. We're going to keep driving this thing to make sure our people are fully aware, safe, protected from coronavirus. You're getting the top medical experts, the top business experts, top political experts, top religious experts, because that's why we do what we do. Unapologetically and unfiltered. Ain't nobody else in the black media space doing what we do.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.